Every single week in artificial intelligence brings 100 headlines, and most of them will be forgotten by Friday. Model previews, hype threads, funding rounds noise. But buried in this week's news are 5 stories that will still matter a year from now. Today we're skipping the hype cycle entirely. Number 5. Apple is about to make AI labels on music mandatory, and the entire streaming industry is being dragged along. Number 4. The man actually running OpenAI day-to-day is not Sam Altman. Number 3. Adobe just put AI music, speech, and sound effects into everyone's hands. Number 2. ChatGPT can now read your text messages. And number 1. A Spider-Man art book just became the poster child for AI slop in big-budget products. For each story, what happened, why people are talking about it, and my honest take, overhyped or underrated. Let's get into it.
Story number 5. This week we learned that Apple Music's AI transparency labels, introduced back in March as a purely voluntary system, are set to become visible and effectively required later this year. According to reporting from The Hollywood Reporter, content providers will be required to include AI transparency tags anytime AI was used to create a material portion of the content, including fully AI-generated tracks. Quick background: the system covers 4 categories: the audio track itself, the composition, lyrics, album artwork, and music videos. Apple calls it a concrete first step toward industry-wide transparency. And Apple is not alone. Spotify is building an AI disclosure standard with the industry group DDEX. Deezer opened up its AI music detection technology to other platforms, and Kaba's rolled out its own detection system just last week. Why it matters? The flood of AI-generated music is a genuine crisis for streaming payouts. Billions of streams are being siphoned by low-effort AI tracks. My honest take: this is underrated. Yes, critics correctly point out that voluntary systems get ignored and Apple hasn't explained how it will enforce the rules. But the direction is one way. Disclosure is becoming table stakes. If you're a creator using AI in your workflow, start labeling now. In a year, unlabeled AI content will look like an admission of guilt.
Story number 4. The Verge reported this week on a shift that sounds boring, but really isn't. While Sam Altman is still the CEO and the public face of OpenAI, its co-founder Greg Brockman, who is now running the company's day-to-day operations. Altman travels, does demos, meets world leaders, and sets the grand vision, while Brockman, the engineer's engineer, manages the actual machine, product cadence, research priorities, and the enormous compute build-out. Why it matters? Companies change character when the person holding the operational reins changes. When a founder engineer takes over execution, you typically get fewer moonshot announcements and faster, more ruthless shipping. That's exactly what we've been watching: agents, integrations, desktop apps that plug into your messages. OpenAI is in deployment mode, not debate mode. My honest take: underrated, and it's a preview of the next 2 years of AI. The foundation model wars are consolidating, and the winners will be decided by who executes. One person to watch: if Brockman's name keeps showing up next to every major product push, you'll know where the center of gravity actually sits inside OpenAI.
Story number 3. Adobe's Firefly audio tools generate music, generate speech, and generate sound effects are now generally available, meaning AI audio generation just went from beta curiosity to standard Creative Cloud toolbox. You can describe a mood and get a soundtrack, type a line and get a voiceover, or ask for footsteps on gravel and get exactly that. Why everyone's talking about it? 2 reasons. First, accessibility. Every video editor, podcast producer, and game hobbyist now has a royalty-free audio generator sitting next to their timeline. Second, and more important, Adobe trained Firefly on licensed and public domain content, which means the output is designed to be commercially safe. In a year drowning in copyright lawsuits, that's the feature, not the audio quality. My honest take: slightly overhyped in the short term, massively underrated in the long term. Will AI music replace composers? No, but the floor just dropped out from under stock music libraries. Remember what happened to stock photography when image generation went mainstream? Same movie, new soundtrack. If you make content for a living, this is the week audio became an infinite, cheap, legal ingredient.
Story number 2, and this is the one that should make you sit up. OpenAI rolled out an Apple Messages plugin for ChatGPT on Mac that can search your text messages, catch you up on conversations, and this is the big one: draft and send replies for you. Think about what that actually means. Until now, using an assistant meant copying your life into a chat box. Paste the email, retype the context, screenshot the conversation. That friction was the last real boundary between AI tool and AI agent. This plugin removes it. The assistant now lives where your actual conversations happen, with permission to read them and act inside them. The obvious upside: catching up on 40 unread threads in a minute, drafting a thoughtful reply in your tone, never losing an address buried in a through-cold message. The obvious question: are you ready to grant an AI read-write access to your personal life? OpenAI says access is permission-gated, and Apple's messaging sandbox is fairly strict. But direction matters more than details here. My honest take: underrated. This is the clearest signal yet of where every assistant is heading in 2026. They're done being websites, they're becoming participants. The assistants that win will be the ones embedded in the apps you already live in.
And story number 1, the one everyone's arguing about. Images surfaced this week from Spider-Man. Brand New Day, the art of the movie, the official companion art book, and they appear to show AI-generated concept art with the classic tells. A taxi melting into the road, fire escapes that could never exist, anatomy that gets worse the longer you look. Shared by the collector account, the art book collector, the images went viral for the most brutal reason. Fans spotted it instantly. And here's the kicker: there's no AI disclosure anywhere in the book. A few honest caveats. It's unconfirmed whether the images are fully AI generated, and neither the publisher nor Marvel has responded substantively. But that's exactly the point. Why it matters. This was not a cash-strapped indie project. This is one of the biggest movie marketing campaigns ever, attached to a studio rolling in money. And allegedly, AI art still slipped into a paid, premium print product, uncredited and undisclosed. If it can happen there, it's happening everywhere. My honest take: overhyped as a scandal, underrated as a signal. The story isn't Spider-Man. The story is that audiences have gotten extremely good at detecting AI slop, and tolerance is collapsing. Combine that with Apple Music's mandatory labels from Story 5, and you can see the same thread running through this entire week. The anonymous AI content era is ending. Disclosure, detection, and accountability are arriving, from music streaming to movie tie-ins.
Let's zoom out. 5 stories, 1 thread. Artificial intelligence is losing its anonymity. Apple Music is making labels mandatory. Adobe ships audio generation with its license record on display. ChatGPT asks for and gets access to your messages in the open. And when AI art sneaks into a Spider-Man book in the dark, fans drag it into the light within days. Meanwhile, the companies themselves are professionalizing. Operators like Brockman now run the biggest labs like shipping machines. If you take one thing from this week, the era of quietly using AI and saying nothing is over. The tools are becoming more powerful and more embedded every single week, and the expectation that you disclose, verify, and stand behind what you make is rising just as fast.
That's This Week in AI, the signal minus the noise. If this saved you an hour of doom-scrolling tech headlines, do me one favor: hit subscribe, because this breakdown lands every single week. And tell me in the comments, which of these 5 stories matters most to you, and did I get the overhyped or underrated calls right? I read everything. See you next week on FYI Bot.